Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is May 11th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. You can see the system now moving into some of the Pacific Northwest. You can see the trough right off our coastline here. Another round of thunderstorms coming today. Had some strong thunderstorms out there across portions of Idaho, and even portions of Oregon and western Montana. We'll take a look at the latest on that, what is to come, and the extended forecast as always as we go through the video here this morning. But you can see we did have a few thunderstorms across southeast Washington towards the Panhandle, and south central Idaho and some of Montana had some pretty strong thunderstorms. These were packing some gusty winds with them as well. Some thunderstorms across the interior central BC also, and we have a thunderstorm threat here for even places like Seattle here today. So we're going to take a look at that as we go. Now, looking at Seattle yesterday, 63 degrees, just a trace of rainfall, still no measurable precipitation just yet, almost 7/10 of an inch behind normal, but there is some precipitation coming up here as we go through this upcoming week. Now, looking at things right now, you can see that actually light rain is being reported at Spokane as we speak. And you've got some of this activity here. There's Bozeman, some light rain also. Looks like some light rain may be off and on near the coastal areas right now. Hopefully I'm still dry this last hour. Now, you can go to the Patreon page. I just had a comment saying that you have to pay to be on Patreon. You do not. This is free if you want to join for free, and you can send me updates here on Patreon. You can send me your weather images. You do not have to pay for that. It's solely by choice here. If you want to help support the channel, you can do so, but to join the Patreon page, you can do so for free. So check that out if you would. You can see Kevin Widener, I hope I pronounced that right. You can see the nice sunset on Mount Hood from Underwood, Washington. Now, looking at Sunday's thunderstorms here, Spokane National Weather Service all over it. Non-severe, generally speaking, across northeast Washington, but maybe some isolated, stronger, severe storms down towards Moscow, Lewiston, and portions of Idaho off in towards western Montana. Now, looking at the wider view of things here in the Storm Prediction Center, you can see we do have some marginal risk back into Washington, just clipping Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. There's even a slight risk there. This is mainly a wind threat, but there is some hail potential as well that does clip portions of Washington and Idaho. This is for day 2, so this would be for the day on Monday. This shows encompasses much of Oregon, some of eastern Washington, and this is on the day Tuesday as this starts to shift off to the east. So looking at 18,000 feet, 500 millibars, this is not an anomaly map. This is just strictly the heights at 500 millibars. Gives you a good idea of where the troughs and ridges are. And if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know this is a trough. So you got clouds, cooler conditions, generally converging air, and maybe a thunderstorm or two with that activity here, even west of the Cascades. And you can see the ridge axis out over the Pacific Ocean here, the high pressure center there. And if you look closely, you can kind of see how the wind rotates around this. That is an anticyclone, kind of moving in a clockwise rotation, and you can see with the trough it moves the other way, against the clock there across the Pacific Northwest where the trough is right there. So lightning flash density potential, we put this into motion, and you can see this activity again is going to be coming up across portions of the Idaho Panhandle, Idaho, Montana, where the strongest storms are going to be. But look at this. You can see some of this lightning potential here come across maybe Portland Metro there, some of western Washington, Vancouver Island. Some of these might move towards the Seattle Metro, maybe Olympia there as well. And then you can kind of see them moving across southeast Washington, maybe northeast Washington also as we go on into the evening hours. And then you can see kind of another round there developing as we go through the nighttime hours and on in towards the midnight hour right there. Then we scroll off in towards Monday, and you'll see the spin in the atmosphere kind of right there. And you can see the plentiful thunderstorms here across portions of Oregon. Maybe the best chance will be on the day Monday for western Oregon as well. You can't rule out a couple strikes near the Puget Sound, maybe Kitsap Peninsula, Olympic Mountains there also, and portions of the Cascades, maybe east slopes as that system continues to push off to the east as we start to go through the day on Tuesday. So closer look at things here. This is the 14Z one. This one is actually updated, but look at some of this thunderstorm activity. Might be moving up across places like, Puyallup, some Pierce County there up towards King County, maybe just near Seattle as we go through the afternoon hours. This will be about 5 p.m. there. Just wanted to show you that. There is some thunderstorm threat here for western Washington today. Lightning flash density potential on the European. So this is this afternoon. It shows a little bit of a chance here, nothing too extreme. And then you can see the stronger storms off to the east. And then as we go on in through Monday, maybe again keeping things destabilized here across the region. Now, composite reflectivity on the North American model. So we go through the day to day, and you can see as we start to go through the day, look at some of these thunderstorms across Idaho and Montana. Some of these are going to be packing a punch, prolific lightning producers, and some of these across Oregon, Washington have that chance to kick off a few strikes or two. But these storms are definitely going to be a bit weaker than these big boys out here roaming across Idaho and Montana. Then we scroll through the afternoon hours, and you can kind of see these heavier showers embedded in there, and those could produce some thunderstorms. And then again, kind of moving up across eastern Oregon, eastern Washington. There might be a strong storm right here moving across portions of eastern Oregon as well, maybe towards Baker also as we go through this evening. So heads up for that. You can see the spin in the atmosphere right off the coastline there, and a couple of rounds coming across Idaho and Montana also as we go through the nighttime hours. Then you can see as we go on in through Monday, we're going to kick some storms off again yet on Monday here. Maybe not quite as strong as what we dealt with on the day today and Sunday. And but Monday's storms look a little bit weaker, but it does keep things a bit destabilized here as we go through Monday afternoon. So total precipitation in inches. You can see some of the stronger storms again kind of racing across the area. You can see where the European thinks those are going to form. You see Seattle. By the time you get towards tonight, what does that call for? Maybe a tenth of an inch of precipitation for Seattle, maybe a little bit more for Portland there. And then we start to scroll off in towards Monday. And again, some rainfall here for Western Oregon. It looks like a pretty rainy day tomorrow for much of Western Oregon, the Willamette Valley, Southwest Oregon coast, getting some decent amounts up over an inch, maybe 2 inches locally there. So watch out for that. And then we scroll on in towards the midweek period, get a little bit of a break, but then we start to head off towards Wednesday. You can see Seattle kind of getting a few hundredths of an inch at times as we go through the midweek period. And then Friday, another system arrives. We'll be watching that one here over the next couple of days because you can see it has some decent precipitation amounts with it as we go through the day Friday. By the end of the run, it shows Seattle with 0.6 of an inch and maybe Portland up towards an inch of precipitation by the time everything is said and done as we get towards the end of the week. So looking at total snow, 24-hour actually running total here. And you can kind of see this is mainly for the higher terrain here as we go through the next few days. We start to scroll off in towards Tuesday, and you see the system kind of push off to the east. Maybe not a bad snowfall, though, coming up between Tuesday and Wednesday for Yellowstone, for example, and some of the higher terrain of southwest Montana, some of the Rocky Mountains out there. And then we'll see what the end of the week has in store for us, but it doesn't look like too much in the way of snow for the Cascades of Washington or Oregon. Now, this is the long-term forecast or extended forecast. This is the European Artificial Intelligence, 500 millibars. There's our system we are dealing with now. Ridge tries to nose in temporarily, but we have this next trough kind of swinging down across the region as we go on in through the day Friday, bringing the next system. And then we get another transient ridge here, kind of this westerly flow, flattening this ridge out. Trough remains here across the Gulf of Alaska and western Canada. And then we start to build a ridge to the extent the models have been showing this. It's way out there still, 10 days out, but the models have been pretty persistent with showing this ridge developing, and that would definitely warm things up. I mean, look at this trough kind of retrograding back north of the Hawaiian Islands and keeping this ridge over the Pacific Northwest. Then a couple sliders move down across portions of western Canada, but we're looking way off into the crystal ball fantasy land at this point. But yeah, kind of an interesting signal there as we start towards the second half of May. Not good for storm chasing prospects out here across some of the central USA, but this can still change. We're looking a bit far off. Now, this is a 5-day running 2-meter temperature anomaly. You see things cooler than normal here as we go on into about, May 19th or so. Then we go on in towards the second half of May, the later portion of May, the later third maybe, and you can kind of see how things warm up, and that would reflect that ridge that would develop there. But again, just something we'll be watching here over the next few days. Here's the 15-day precipitation anomaly. Generally speaking, still below normal here across much of the region, maybe some interior areas ending up above normal. Who knows? Looking at daily 2-meter max temperatures. This is Sunday, May 11th. Here's Mother's Day here. There's Seattle and Portland. Here we go on for Monday. There's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I'm trying to drive home the point there. We don't have any major warm up here as we go on in towards this upcoming week and towards the next weekend. And not yet. Nothing showing up here. We're going to remain kind of in that westerly flow with the system coming towards the end of next week as well. So you can see that wasn't showing the ridge. It wasn't going out far enough. So here's the percent of average precipitation since the beginning of the year. And you can see Washington State generally well below normal. Some areas of Oregon are slightly above, but Northwest Oregon, they're below normal also. And if we go and look a little bit closer since January 1st, I mean, look at some of the Puget Sound region there, between 50 and 70%. In fact, some areas, if you look closely, are between 25 and 50% of normal. And some of the Cascades are quite a bit below normal. The east slopes of the Cascades as well, since again January 1st to May 10th. That is yesterday. And so you don't like to see that here heading into the summer months, because man, our precipitation values really start dropping off here as we go through the month of May. By the time you get towards June, it gets much more difficult to get some of these nice rainmakers in here. It still can be done, but it just becomes much more difficult. So that's not a good sign. And if we take a look at Oregon, same time frame here as well. Some of the Cascades doing pretty well, but Northwest Oregon not doing too hot. Kind of a mixed bag out there also. And this is for Idaho, same time frame. Generally speaking, below normal, but some areas across central portions have been above normal. Now, you can look this up and Google this. I talked about this yesterday, the National Significant Wildland Fire Potential Outlook. This one is issued on May 1st. The next one comes out on June 1st. But if we take a closer look at over the last month, I'm going to jump back to that here in a moment. But over the last month and a week or so, you can see the Pacific Northwest has not been doing well since April 1st. The entire region, virtually the entire region here, has been quite a ways below normal here. So not a good look heading towards the summer coming up. Now, looking at June, you can kind of see how the east slopes of the Cascades, some of eastern Washington are under the gun there. But by the time we get towards July, you can see much of the much of the region there included in the above normal wildland fire potential. And on August, the entire region is put in there as well. Excuse me. Now, take a look at precipitation anomaly. This is something the European does, a seasonal forecast. This is May, June, and July of this year. Look at this nasty signal here for below average precipitation through the entire May, June, and July period that encompasses much of the summer. So we don't get a lot of precipitation across the region here anyway during that time frame. So any kind of lessened amount can really be problematic fire-wise. So hopefully this is not a trend that's going to be showing. We still have time to change things up. Now, 6 to 10 day, still that below normal signal showing up yet. This does not go out far enough to start to show that ridge. It only goes to May 20th. The ridge would be coming in after that if it does. And the 6 to 10 day still shows us above normal. But again, it's been at odds with the European Artificial Intelligence, which has actually beat out a lot of these Climate Prediction Center predictions here, or so it seems, just in my daily briefings, looking at them anyway. But yeah, we'll continue to break things down. Again, watch eyes on the sky today. If you see some of those darker clouds rolling around, you could get a lightning strike even west of the Cascades. There's stronger storms off to the east. And again, tomorrow, thunderstorm threat will be apparent. We'll check that out in tomorrow's video. Hopefully you guys are having a good day. Click like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys then.